Welcome to Trend Nightmare, where we bring your worst fears to life through chilling tales and terrifying experiences. Prepare yourself for a journey into the unknown, where the ordinary turns sinister and the mundane becomes a nightmare. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on the latest spine-tingling stories and paranormal encounters. Enter if you dare and join us as we explore the dark and disturbing corners of reality. 4 disturbing True Beach horror stories. Story 1. The Phantom Swimmer. Jessica had always loved the beach. The sun, the sand, and the soothing sound of the waves were her idea of paradise. But one summer evening, her peaceful retreat turned into a nightmare that would haunt her forever. It was a warm summer evening when Jessica decided to go for a swim. The beach was nearly empty, with only a few people scattered along the shore. She loved the tranquility of the evening swim, the feeling of being one with the ocean. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the water, Jessica waded into the sea. She swam out a bit further than usual, enjoying the cool water against her skin. The rhythmic sound of the waves was calming, and she floated on her back, staring up at the darkening sky. She closed her eyes, letting the gentle rocking of the ocean lull her into a state of relaxation. The encounter, Jessica felt something brush against her leg. She dismissed it as seaweed and continued to float. But then it happened again, more forcefully. This time, she opened her eyes and looked around but saw nothing. A sense of unease crept over her as she swam back towards the shore. As she approached the shallows, she felt a strong grip on her ankle, pulling her back into the deeper water. Panicked, she kicked and thrashed, but the grip tightened. She looked down and saw a pale hand, cold and lifeless, dragging her further out. The hand belonged to a figure that was just below the surface, its eyes wide and vacant. Jessica screamed and fought with all her strength, finally breaking free from the phantom grip. She swam to the shore as fast as she could, her heart pounding in her chest. When she reached the beach, she collapsed on the sand, gasping for breath. Aftermath. Jessica looked back at the ocean, but the figure was gone. She ran to the nearest lifeguard station and reported what had happened, but they found no evidence of anyone in the water. The beachgoers dismissed her story as hallucination or a bad dream, but Jessica knew what she had experienced was real. The encounter left her traumatized. She avoided the beach for months, unable to shake the memory of the Phantom Swimmer. Eventually, she learned that the beach had a dark history. Years ago, a swimmer had drowned under mysterious circumstances, and many believed his restless spirit still haunted the waters. Jessica's peaceful retreat had turned into a nightmare, a haunting reminder of the thin line between the living and the dead. Story 2 CAW, The Cursed Beach House. Introduction. For Mark and his friends, a weekend at the beach house was supposed to be a fun getaway. They had rented a secluded house right on the shore, eager to escape the city and enjoy some sun and surf. But what was meant to be a relaxing trip quickly turned into a disturbing ordeal. The group arrived at the beach house on a Friday afternoon. It was an old, charming property with a stunning view of the ocean. They unpacked, settled in, and spent the evening enjoying the beach. As night fell, they gathered around a bonfire, roasting marshmallows and sharing stories. One of Mark's friends, Sarah, mentioned that she had heard the beach house was haunted. According to local legend, the original owner had mysteriously disappeared, and his spirit was said to wander the property. The group laughed it off, attributing it to small-town folklore. The first night, after a fun-filled evening, they retired to their rooms. Mark was woken in the middle of the night by a strange noise. It sounded like someone whispering right outside his window. He got up and looked out, but saw nothing. Dismissing it as the wind, he went back to bed. But the whispering continued, growing louder and more insistent. He tried to ignore it, but then he heard footsteps inside the house. Mark got up again and checked the hallway, but it was empty. The footsteps seemed to move away from him, leading him towards the basement door. The encounter, curiosity got the better of him, and Mark followed the sound down to the basement. The air grew colder as he descended the stairs. The basement was dark and damp, filled with old furniture and forgotten belongings. As he reached the bottom, he saw a figure standing in the corner. The figure was that of a man, his face hidden in the shadows. Mark called out, but there was no response. He took a step closer, and the figure slowly turned to face him. Mark's heart raced as he saw the man's eyes, hollow and lifeless, filled with an unsettling emptiness. The figure started to move towards him, and Mark backed up, stumbling over the stairs. He turned and ran, not stopping until he was back in his room. He locked the door and tried to calm down, but the whispering continued throughout the night. Aftermath. The next morning, Mark told his friends about the encounter. They were skeptical, but agreed to leave the house early. As they packed up, they noticed strange symbols etched into the walls of the basement. They left the beach house and reported their experience to the rental agency, but no one believed them. Mark later discovered that the original owner had been involved in dark rituals, and his disappearance was linked to the occult. The beach house was cursed, and anyone who stayed there was doomed to encounter the restless spirit. The weekend getaway had turned into a nightmare, leaving Mark and his friends with a story they would never forget. 3 Towner, the disappearing beach goer. Now, Natalie and her family were excited for their annual beach vacation. They had chosen a beautiful, secluded beach known for its pristine sands and clear waters. But what started as a perfect holiday quickly turned into a haunting experience. The family arrived at the beach early in the morning, eager to set up their spot. The beach was nearly empty, with only a few other families scattered along the shore. They spent the day swimming, building sandcastles, and enjoying the sun. It was the perfect getaway. As the afternoon wore on, Natalie noticed a man walking along the beach. He was dressed in old-fashioned clothing, and something about him seemed off. He walked slowly, staring out at the ocean. Natalie watched him for a while, but eventually dismissed it and went back to playing with her kids. Later in the day, Natalie saw the man again. This time, he was standing at the water's edge, staring out to sea. She felt a strange compulsion to approach him, but something held her back. She continued to watch as the man slowly walked into the water and disappeared beneath the wave. Concerned, Natalie alerted the lifeguard, who immediately launched a search. But despite their efforts, they found no trace of the man. The lifeguard told Natalie that the beach had a history of disappearances, and that many believed it was haunted by the spirits of those who had drowned. Encounter. That night, Natalie couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the man and the strange feeling she had when she saw him. Around midnight, she decided to take a walk along the beach to clear her mind. The moon was full, casting an eerie glow over the sand. As she walked, she saw the man again. This time, he was standing in the same spot where he had disappeared earlier. Natalie felt a chill run down her spine as she approached him. When she got closer, she realized he was not alone. There were other figures standing in the water, their faces pale and expressionless. The man turned to face her, his eyes hollow and filled with an unsettling emptiness. Natalie tried to back away, but her feet felt like they were glued to the sand. The figures moved towards her, and she felt a cold hand grip her arm. She screamed and yanked her arm free, running back to the safety of her hotel. Aftermath. Natalie spent the rest of the night in a state of terror, unable to sleep. The next morning, she told her family what had happened, and they decided to cut their vacation short. They left the beach, vowing never to return. Natalie later discovered that the beach was rumored to be haunted by the spirits of those who had drowned there. The man she had seen was believed to be one of the first victims, doomed to wander the beach for eternity. The perfect vacation had turned into a nightmare, leaving Natalie with a story that would haunt her for the rest of her life.